Economists are bracing for another debt crisis showdown. The world edges dangerously closer to a full-blown world war. Forecasters are shocked at the amount of rain that's falling in the western states. A lot is happening right now, a lot faster than many anticipated. And we're going to break down each of these pressing issues in this week's video. And most importantly, we're going to explain how each of these will impact you. Also, I'll announce a winner of last week's giveaway, and I'm going to tell you how to enter this week's giveaway. U.S. debt crisis. As a humorist Will Rogers once said, no nation in the history of the world was ever sitting as pretty. If we want anything, all we have to do is go and buy it on credit. America, we run on debt. We borrow money that we don't have. We print money. We ask people to have faith in it. And we wield a strong sway over geopolitics because of the strength of the U.S. economy. And that might change with the debt ceiling crisis that will be all over the media in the coming days, weeks, and months. It was assumed that this battle and heightened rhetoric wouldn't come to a rolling boil until early spring or summer, but the crisis, it's here now, faster than anyone could have imagined. It will be a massive issue in 2 days after I release this video, so it's very important that you pay attention to what we're about to detail here. The debt limit, or the debt ceiling, as it is often referred to in the total amount of money that the United States government is authorized to borrow to meet its existing legal obligations, including things like Social Security and Medicare benefits, military salaries, interest on the national debt, tax refunds, and other payments. In the past, Congress has always acted to raise the debt limit. And since 1960, Congress has acted 78 separate times to permanently raise, temporarily extend, or revise the definition of the debt limit. 49 times under the Republican presidents and 29 times under Democratic presidents. Now, in recent years, the threat of voting against this necessary raising of the debt ceiling, it has been used as a political device to affect changes in government spending habits and other legislative and executive policies and programs. As the United States Secretary of the Treasury warned in a letter to congressional leaders last week, failure to meet the government's obligations would cause irreparable harm to the United States economy. Indeed, in the past, even the threats that the U.S. government might fail to meet its obligations, they have caused real harm, including the only credit rating downgrade in the history of our nation, which was in 2011. And this brinkmanship over such a critical part of the U.S. economy is beginning this week. Starting this Thursday, the Treasury will begin redeeming existing and suspending new investments in the Civil Service Retirement and Disability Fund and the Postal Service Retiree Health Benefits Fund and the Government Security Investment Fund of the Federal Employees Retirement System. These early actions are the Treasury preparing for parties to be split on this debt ceiling. Depending on which side of the aisle that you get your messaging from, this lifting of the limit is either completely necessary or it shouldn't be done at all. Some will argue that requiring cuts for spending is the only viable way forward, and others will say that cutting unnecessary spending and trimming waste in social safety nets, military spending, or foreign aid is the only possible means forward. Still, others will argue that voting to raise the ceiling, it shouldn't be a political weapon. It should be routine while the rest of the time is spent working on bipartisan solutions to the U.S. spending problem. What do you think? Let me know in the comments section below which is the right approach or what your thoughts are. Now, both parties would agree that the U.S. has a spending party. That seems to be on both sides of the aisle. But getting past the political talking points, the takeaway here is that it's a big problem from whatever lens or vantage point that you view it from. I need you, my community, to know that this has all the earmarks of exploding into something even more significant than 2011, when the country's credit rating was slashed. We're going to hit the debt ceiling within days. Let me say that again, within days of me releasing this video. The ceiling was last raised by $2.5 trillion in December of 2021 under then President Donald Trump. Both parties will dig in their heels on this one, which will dramatically affect our spending and economy. Even now, the Treasury will start to move money around to cover a shortfall in cash flow. As this heats up, prices for everything will continue to rise. Big ticket items and large purchases like cars or homes, they're going to be put on hold and chill the economy. You can expect major shifts in the stock market as investors seek out stable investments over investing in innovation or venture capital growth. If this is anything like 2011, the stock market will likely suffer mightily. And that means the evaporation of value in people's retirement accounts as well. The housing market will suffer from the double blow of a contraction and slowing buying. Inflation will continue to rise to all new levels. The economy will be severely bruised, and it's going to take months to recover. For some, as I said, that's just the pain that we have to feel when we rip the Band-Aid off and expose the wound. For others, it's an unnecessary abuse of power and control that is politically motivated from start to end. For you, prepare for weeks and months of wrangling on the Hill. Expect that this might get far worse. Markets will react and contract, prices will go up, and your dollar will be worth far less tomorrow than it is today. If this is anything like 2011, you can expect spending cuts to K-12 schools, rental assistance vouchers, Medicare, Medicaid, environmental protections, and possibly even Social Security and more. What do you think? Is it time that we cap spending, or should we just kick this can down the road to avoid the potential impacts that it may have on the stock market and other implications? Do you think Congress will work together to avoid the predicament altogether? You hear me laughing there on that one. Let us know in the comments below, and also tell us what you're doing to prepare for this potential national economic slide. Russian air errors versus Ukraine and the world. This last weekend, Russia launched 5 Kh-22 missiles from long-range Russian bombers. Other missiles were also launched from Russia's Kursk Oblast in the Sea of Azov. But let's consider these Kh-22s for just a moment. They're not smart weapons. An operator just can't dial in a military target hundreds of kilometers away and hope to destroy it. They're actually anti-ship missiles that are being fired on land-based targets. They're meant to be fired from the air at a distance of up to 600 kilometers, but the closer to the target, obviously, the better. When fired at a longer range, they can deviate from their planned target by hundreds of meters. They also travel up to Mach 4.6, so Ukraine can't currently shoot them down. It is estimated that Russia has launched a little over 200 of these fast and inaccurate missiles since the start of the conflict. There's really 3 things to take away from this situation. First, Russia is launching these at such a distance that they are assuredly not targeting specific Ukrainian military forces. They're being aimed at high population areas and then let loose. As was the case here, the result is massive civilian casualties, with reportedly over 40 dead, over 30 unaccounted for, and over 70 people injured. Now, these missiles are meant to cause maximum civilian casualties to break the Ukrainian people's resolve. It's a hammer of war and not a scalpel. The second thing that stems from this is that it's almost a guarantee that Western forces are going to ramp up the deployment of anti-missile defense systems. There are several batteries that have been deployed or are en route. Previously, the deployment of a defensive missile shield was a line in the sand for Putin. There's no doubt that he will increase the usage of his stockpile of these missiles because he has them available and has to use them up before missile shields are deployed that can shoot them down even when they're traveling at almost 5 times the speed of sound. Sending tanks was once unthinkable, but has become just another escalation in advance of fears that Russia will make a strong spring offensive. This conflict continues to escalate to new, unimaginable levels. Here's the third and most important takeaway here. If the Russian-Ukrainian conflict could be viewed as a powder keg before, it's now a conflict where there's powder that's leaked out around the keg and lit matches are being flicked over the top of it all. On Saturday, a third rocket was discovered in fragments in Moldova. The warhead was carefully detonated in a controlled blast. Missiles landing in Moldova are wildly off target. And this is one of the reasons the Ukrainian southernmost port city of Odessa has been spared repeated missile attacks. If a missile goes off the mark there and sails into Romania, it could hit some of the 2,000 U.S. military troops from the Army Stryker Squadron or the 82nd Airborne Division that's embedded with the Romanian soldiers there. If the city of Lviv is attacked in Ukraine's east, an errant missile could easily sail into Poland, Slovakia, or Hungary. Any significant missile blasts in these downrange countries would undoubtedly bring an almost instantaneous counterassault. Again, that analogy of the leaky powder keg with matches carelessly being flicked over the top of it is probably accurate in this situation. We voiced our concerns and warned of this early on in this conflict. Adding tanks, anti-missile batteries, and other armaments and heavy equipment is like spreading more gunpowder around. As Russia seeks to strike this new heavy equipment with its inaccurate missiles, the chance for mishaps and errant missiles is likely going to exponentially increase. What will be the world's reaction when a Russian missile strikes an apartment building in Poland or forward deployed U.S. military personnel in Romania? This winter war is going to be fought via missiles and drones until the ground sufficiently hardens and equipment and troops can move again. Spring's thaw will make ground conditions impassable, and the battle will again be in the air and through shelling for areas closest to the front lines. Casualty amongst the civilian population is going to increase during these high periods of air assault. The potential for direct engagement of Western troops is also exponentially increasing with every launch. You can watch for that. Also, watch for Russia to claim Kiev was trying to draw the West into the conflict. Having not won the war in the early hours, Russia is resorting to its typical playbook. Putin intends to draw this war out until the will of the people, the enemies in his view, is broken or only rubble remains. Civilian casualties are not a factor. Now, I don't expect any glimmer of news this conflict might wind down until well after any spring skirmishes. We're going to continue to monitor this and let you know how it will impact you. What do you think? How long do you think this conflict will rage on? And do you see a resolution? Energy. There's a brewing energy crisis around the world. Many of us have been aware of this for some time and have felt the effects for some time as well. You may feel the pinch if you have paid a recent utility bill. Electricity bills for many doubled this past summer. Now natural gas bills for many are doubling through this winter. The energy crisis is far, far worse than you're being told. And you can expect us to have a video about this released sometime around this weekend where we'll do more of a deep dive on this. Personally, and I know this is anecdotal, the cost of heating that in my own house, it's doubled this winter. And our gas company, SoCal Gas, has a whole page on their website that's dedicated to explaining the rise in people's bills. And a glance at the chart of current and historical gas prices, it goes a long way in explaining why bills are higher. The same is true for propane, heating oil, and even coal. While America, fortunately, sits on top of all the natural gas that it could want or need for the next several decades, this energy source is a commodity. So guess what? It flows to the highest bidder. If that higher bidder is overseas, the resource flows in that direction. Global demand directly impacts the prices on Main Street USA. Extended periods of cold or hot weather tip the consumption scale. Aging infrastructure struggles to meet the high demands of large populations living in what are now genuinely inhospitable lands. People living in the desert paradise of Rio Verde, Arizona, they're now beginning to realize this as neighboring city supplier of Scottsdale just recently cut off their water supply. Skip showers and paper plates are now the new norm unless the rain comes in and hopefully fades out the drought. Worldwide, populations have exploded in previously uninhabitable and unsustainable environments. And this is a blessing of science and technology, but unfortunately the old infrastructure and the old ways of building are not really keeping time with the dramatic shifts in weather patterns and energy demands. This is further exacerbated by the Russian-Ukrainian conflict and the drive for profits. There's also a lot to unpack here, so we're going to do a bit of a deeper dive on this coming weekend, and you can watch out for that. In the meantime, are you suffering from higher utility bills? What have you done about it? I would encourage you to check out our video where we talk about 9 easy hacks to save energy this winter and to stay warm. I'll link to it in the cards up above, and I'll also post a link in the description section below, hopefully save you some money. Drought. You probably hear reports about California and the Pacific Northwest receiving an atmospheric river of precipitation over the last few weeks. Some areas are receiving up to over 200% of normal levels of rainfall, and the reservoirs are filling fast, but are we out of the drought? While the lifting of severe drought status, it's going to occur for many areas, and the snowpack will reach record levels, we will still be in severe drought in the western United States. Think of it as running on empty and then pulling over to just put 1/4 the tank of gas in your car. It's going to get you further down the road, and it's enough to turn off that low gas meter that shows up on your dashboard, but it's not going to get you all the way to where you need to go. Regrettably, this rainfall has really done little to help water supplies. For most of it, it's been flowing into storm drains and either right out to the ocean or into rivers that lead to it. Overall, aquifers remain critically low, and it takes time to fill them. A dozen or so days of extreme downpour is not going to really raise the levels enough to eliminate a multi-decade drought. Many western states, they need to heavily invest in underground storage systems if they hope to maintain their lifestyles. It's good news for the present, though. Farmers in the Central Valley who provide a quarter of the nation's food, including 40% of the nation's fruits, nuts, and other table foods, they're pleased. And the long soak will be great for their fields. Still, the consistency of periodic rainfall as opposed to extreme heat and dry weather will be their most significant factor in the months ahead. So while this rain is good in the present and in the short future, we still need consistent and steady rainfall before officially calling this drought over. As a prepper, storing some of your water supply, building precipitation collection systems, using water in more intelligent and conservative ways, and having the means to filter and treat water, they're all very important. Water is a resource, and it will continue to be challenging for many to obtain at a low price. That's not going to change with a dozen or so days of heavy rain. Are you getting rain or continued drought where you live? What's your current and future forecast? Let us know in the comment section below. For this week's giveaway, we're going to be giving away the SAS Survival Guide. To enroll for a chance to be entered into the giveaway, just simply post a comment below. And next week, I'll use a tool to draw a winner from the comments of this video randomly. I'm not going to reach out to you unless your name appears on the screen next week. And I would encourage you to ignore and report any comments telling you that you've won because it is not me. For last week's winner of the Leatherman Pocket Size Multi-Tool, we used a tool to draw the name randomly from the comments section. The winner was Sailor Tom. I'll be reaching out to you shortly to get that sent to you. Stories. Do you have a tale of survival or a story to tell about where your preps came in and saved the day or your life? We'd love to know. Please feel free to write us an email and send it to story@cityprepping.com. We've received dozens already and we're looking for even more. Our community is full of knowledge that can quite literally save others. We want to bring that out, so tell us what went right, what went wrong, what brought you to prepping, and what your best advice is for others that might be starting out. We'll edit the content and link to change the names and all that, so don't worry about revealing any of your identity. Again, just simply send your story to story@cityprepping.com, and we might feature it in the future. I would encourage you to start this new year off by genuinely committing to prepping for an uncertain future. An uncertain future is all but guaranteed. How you weather that future is entirely up to your decisions that you make right now. As always, stay safe out there.